Hello everyone, Lady Steam here. In this video, we're going to learn how to make the kit for our Shipwreck pin. This is a great hat pin, a great pin for anything you want to use it on your shirt, wherever you want to put it. It's a really fun pin, and it's a chance to look at both the Nautilus gears and how they spin, and the main gears and gear trains and how gear trains get built. Let's take a look at the parts and pieces in your bag and the preparation you're going to need to do in terms of decorating. Remember, these kits all come with bare wood straight off the laser cutter. So you're going to have the opportunity to decorate them however you want to. Now, in this particular kit, we've got our main back piece, and we're actually going to glue to it when we finish. There's one more piece here, and we're going to put your pin backs right here. So you want to make sure you sand and finish those pieces, and all of the pieces need to be sanded. This gear is going to be our main back gear, and it's going to sit behind the piece like that, and that's what we're going to use to spin or to drive the gears in the set. Now, I'm going to do this, and I'm going to do a little one and a big one, and a big one and a little one. And that's how we're actually going to put this together as well. So we're going to put our big gear here, and we're going to use one of those wooden spacers in your bag to fasten those two pieces together. And then we're going to put a small gear and a big gear, and we're actually going to go glue those two together as well. And then we're going to add a small gear to the top here. And we're going to take and put our front panel or our middle panel over that. Use another wood spacer on this side, and we're going to attach one of these Nautilus gears to this. Nautilus gears are so cool because what they give you is a chance to see gear speeds going from nothing to really fast. So we're going to put our two Nautilus together on top like that, and we call this the Shipwreck because of those Nautilus gears. So it's a chance for you to look at gear speeds and to look at what happens as you play with driving gears at different gear ratios. And that's how we're going to put it together. So what you need to do first is go sand and decorate however you want to decorate, pins, Sharpies, acrylic paints, whatever you're going to use to decorate all of these layers, and then come back and we'll put your kit together. Now that you've decorated all your parts, or at least made sure you sanded them all well, let's open our bag and look at what's in the hardware that we're going to be using. So you'll notice you've got two screws. One of them is longer than the other. One's a 7/8 and one's a 3/4. You've got two nuts and you've got two wooden spacers. And those spacers are what we're going to use as we put this together. So what we're going to do first is we're going to build this from the back. And the longer screw is the one that's going to go on the left side. And the shorter screw is the one that's going to go on the side with a small hole. So I'm going to start with taking that screw and screwing it in. We're going to do this backwards and then flip it over so you end up with screw holes at top. And the reason these holes are tight is because it gives you a nice, easy way to make sure everything is aligned perfectly. We want to make sure that nothing is slipping around too much, or things just won't align properly, and that would be a sad, sad thing. So I'm going to take this and screw it up from the back to give me a platform to start from. It goes like that. And so the first thing we want to do is we want to put a spacer in the middle of that gear so that we can put that over here like so. So I'm going to lift it off for a minute. And I'm going to put a line of glue around the outside of my hole. I'm going to bring the screw up through the center, hopefully not getting any glue on it when I do that, and I'm going to drop this spacer down on it and push it down nice and tight. And it looks like I've got a little glue on the outside. So I need to make sure I wipe all of that off, like so. And that's step one. So now I've got my base with 2 screws coming out of it. And what I'm going to want to do next is I'm going to want to take and I want to glue this gear, that's a really pretty gear, to that layer underneath it. And if I were to just stick the glue around it, I would probably end up, once again, with glue somewhere I didn't want it. So I'm going to pull the screw out. I'm going to put my nice layer of gear around the outside like so. And put the screw up through it. I'm going to lay the base over it carefully. And then I'm going to put this gear on top. Like so, and push down. And I'm going to spin a little bit to make sure that if the glue has spread in a way it shouldn't, it doesn't glue the gear together. So I'm going to continue reaching over here from time to time and spinning that to make sure it all stays nice and smooth. Now the next thing we're going to do is we're going to put this little gear here. And if you look at my sample, you can see that these 2 gears are glued together. So I'm going to take this gear and build a shaft so that this gear can drive the small gear we're going to put on top. And the way we're going to do that is I'm just going to put a little glue on the back of this guy right here. Like so. And ever so carefully stick it down. And you'll notice that as I spin the back gear, it spins this gear because that's a shaft. And that spins these 2 gears because they've been built into a shaft. And if I set this gear on top, now this gear is spinning this gear, is spinning this gear. And you can see how the top gear is going at a different speed than the bottom gear because of that. So, now we're ready to build another shaft through to the front layer. So we'll do what we did the last time. We'll take our small gear here, put a ring of glue around it, set it back over our 7/8 inch screw, and put this nice big spacer over the top of that. And again, I got some extra glue on it, so I want to wipe off that extra glue. And everything is spinning nicely. You should have 2 Nautilus, and one of those Nautilus will have a little etched line on the top. And so what we want to do is, it really doesn't matter which Nautilus you put where, it just matters that these 2 Nautilus are facing in opposite directions. So we're going to want to glue one of the 2 Nautilus onto the shaft we just created. And we'll do that by pulling this gear off, putting glue around the outside, and putting our shaft back together, putting our spacer layer on top, being ever so careful to not get any glue on it. And then I'm going to put on the first of the Nautilus, press down and make sure that's held together well. And I can spin that whole thing from the gear in the back perfectly, and that Nautilus is spinning around. And I haven't sanded these pieces, so you can see how important sanding is when you go ahead and build one of these, because if you do, it will spin much, much more smoothly than I am seeing at the moment. And now, right, if I were to lift this off, I'd actually be lifting off both halves, because that's all nice and fastened together. Now we need to know how to put our next nautilus on top. Now the easiest way to align your nautilus is to make that tooth and that tooth combine together. And they should spin smoothly interlocking if that's the case. If anything isn't perfectly smooth, you can use a little bit of sandpaper on the sanding stick we've included and sand on that one tooth right there to make sure that that's all completely perfect. And once you've done that, we're ready again to flip our screws back the other way and to put the nuts on the back of this. So I'm going to hold on to the front and loosen this guy right up. I'm going to take this 3/4 inch screw all the way out. Make sure you hold your whole stack together so nothing slides out of place. It's really annoying to put it back together if you have to. Flip that through. Make sure you're lined up on the back. And now the trick here is to not make it screw in too tight. So by using the screwing into the wood on the back, we can make sure that I've got a nice amount of space here. And I'm going to do that same thing with this other screw. Screw it out and flip it over. I'll run that screw into here. And now we're going to fasten the screws down. So I want to make sure this is loose enough, and I'm just going to put a dot of glue on these, and I'm just going to mostly start the screws. I want to make sure that nothing gets tightened down at all. So I'm just going to get a little bit in here. Make sure you've got at least the thickness of a piece of paper between your screw, between your nut and your back plate, and between the nut and the gear. Give yourself some room, and we should be spinning smoothly at this point, all the way around. Now, we're going to do one more thing before we finish this up, and that is I'm going to flip this over, and we're going to put our pins on the back here. So we're flipping it that way, and I'm going to put this extra layer on. That gives you an extra layer so that your back gear, if you're wearing this on a hat or something else, isn't rubbing this gear against something. And we're going to put these 2 pins on the back right here. The thing to know about super glue is it sets with pressure, so if you just set it on top, it probably won't set. You're probably going to have to press down a little bit as you do that. And there you have it, your very own cool shipwreck pin.